DiMaggio, Hank Aaron, and Willie Mays. All great players, all Hall of Famers. You will now hear about the greatest player that ever played the game. At least that's what many baseball experts say. He's one of the most misunderstood men in baseball. He was the first great American sports hero, first player elected to the Hall of Fame, first millionaire ball player, first major leaguer to make a Hollywood movie. He helped create the game we know as the national pastime. He knew every president from William Howard Taft to Richard M. Nixon. The time is mid-July 1961. The location, Atlanta, Georgia. It is a hot, humid evening. The gentleman is in his hotel suite, reminiscing about his life with a sports reporter from the Atlanta Journal, who questions him and takes notes. He is extremely ill and tired, taking medication. But when he talks about baseball, he becomes animated and full of energy. His name is Tyrus Raymond, the Georgia Peach, Cobb.
Many years ago, a sports writer asked me if I liked playing baseball. Hell no, I told him. I didn't like playing baseball. What's that train? What's that train? I didn't like playing baseball. I loved playing baseball. Fact is, I love playing baseball more than anything in this whole wide world, except for my lovely wife and 5 beautiful children. I love riding the trains from city to city, staying in the big hotels, playing baseball in the new ballparks up in the northern cities in the daytime, under the sun, with real grass in the outfield, just the way the good Lord wanted men to play baseball. I love the competitiveness of the game and the sights, sounds, and smells. I love the smell of my leather glove and the smell of the peanuts, popcorn, Cracker Jacks, and hot dogs in the ballpark, and the sweet smell of the freshly mowed green grass in the outfield. Putting on my Tigers uniform in the clubhouse and lacing up my sharp spikes, polished and shined by my man Friday, hearing the clickety-click sound my spikes made as I walked down the long corridor on my way to the dugout, sound of the ball hitting the sweet spot on my back as I drove the ball down the right field line, the crowd standing, cheering, screaming loudly as I rounded first, headed towards second, sliding in, showering the infielder with dirt, and hearing the booming voice of the umpire yell, "Save!" Shoot! I love playing the game so much, I would have played it for nothing. A sports columnist from the Atlanta Journal called me just the other day. He said he heard I wasn't feeling well. "How do you feel, Mr. Cobb?" he asked me. So I told him how I damn well felt. Except for high blood pressure, failing kidneys, cirrhosis of the liver, and cancer that was ravaging my body, I'm feeling pretty damn good. He then asked me if there was anything I was afraid of. Are you meaning to ask me, sir, of anything I'm afraid of? Are you meaning to ask me of dying? Listen here, boy. I never feared anything or anyone. And I ain't afraid of dying. Having loved my Lord, Jesus Christ, with all my heart, mind, body, and soul, and despite my weaknesses and frailties, I believe the good Lord loves me. I am now prepared to meet my Maker. I only hope my Maker is prepared to meet me. I told him the following story. It was a hot, humid day in Royston, Georgia, the town where I was raised. I was walking on the railroad tracks on a bridge high above a river just outside town. Several of my little buddies were walking behind me. We were all about 7, 8 years old, don't you know? We saw and heard a freight train roaring down the tracks, coming at us at about 100 miles an hour. My buddies jumped off the tracks, but I stayed on the tracks, staring that train down. When it got close, I could see the engineer's eyes bulging. At the last split second, I leaped off the bridge into the river below. Like I said, I never feared anything or anyone. My daddy advised me to place myself on the side of right, be humble, and fear no man. That's how I live my life. Of course, it is mighty difficult to be humble when you were as great as I was. If there's anything I'm afraid of, it's being forgotten. People not remembering who I was. That I be relegated to the trash heap of history. That's what I'm afraid of. That's what bothers me the most. That is what I fear. But I believe in small towns and big cities all across this great land of ours. Young boys are picking up baseball bats and gloves. They're reading baseball books, and they're going to see my photos and my name throughout those books. And they're going to ask their daddies, who was Ty Cobb, Daddy? Their daddies are going to say, Cobb, why, he was the greatest player that ever played the game. I was born with a competitive spirit. I was a natural-born show-off. When I was a child playing children's games, don't you know, I always had to win, to be the best, to finish first. I threw stones further, shouted louder, climbed trees higher, and ran faster. I even bet my little buddies I could pee further. And I did. I started playing serious baseball when I was 14. I played on my local team in Royston. Most of the boys on the team were between 16 and 22, but like I said, I was only 14 years old. But I was the star of the team. At that time, I was short, didn't weigh a whole lot, about 5'7", weighed 140 pounds, soaking wet, ran fast as a deer, hit pretty good, and I must admit, I was a damn good fielder. I was playing left field one day when the batter hit a line drive down the left field line. I raced over, bent down, picked up the ball. Well, I thought it was the ball, but it was a rabbit. at the second base and nail the runner by a hair. I was a peach fuzz young lad of 17 when I asked my daddy for his blessings so I could play professional baseball with the Augusta Tourists in the newly formed South Atlantic League. My daddy was very reluctant. I don't like the idea, Ty. I'd like you to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, a military man, or even a politician like me. Most ball players are drunkards, gamblers, liars, uneducated louts, and womanizers. But Daddy, I love playing baseball. I'm real good at it, Daddy. I'm gonna make you proud of me. I must have had some tears in my eyes, cause the next thing I heard him say was, the hell with it! Go play baseball, son, and get it out of your system, but don't come home a failure, boy. Don't you come home a failure. You be the best at whatever you do. If you want to be a ball player, you be the best that ever played the game. And that's what I became, the very best. When the balloting took place for the Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York in 1936, I finished first with 222 of 226 votes. Babe Ruth, he finished second. I was always being asked what was my approach to playing baseball. I approached baseball as a science and kept detailed notes on every pitcher and catcher. Baseball is as much a game of the mind as well as the body, brains as well as brawn. Yogi Berra used to say, baseball is 90% mental and 50% physical. We play small ball to score runs. Hits move runners up one base at a time. Sacrifice bunts will come. Teams like fast guys like me, cause every stolen base moved the runner up 90 feet. I wasn't the fastest guy in the league, just the smartest. I studied the catchers. I kept notes on every one. I knew their arms as well as my own. That's how I led the league in stolen bases 6 times, had 96 one year, 892 lifetime. You all know what the most difficult base to steal is?
Third base.
Home! Home, that's right. Home. I stole home 54 times without ever being thrown out. 5 times after reaching first, I stole second, third, and home in the same inning. I also hit 64 inside the park home runs. No one in the entire history of Major League Baseball has ever accomplished such feats. Those records remain on the books to this very day. I remember my first big league at bat like it was yesterday. I faced 40-game winner, that's right, 40-game winner, Jack Chesbrough of the New York Highlanders. Later on, they became the New York Yankees, and Chesbrough entered the Hall of Fame in 1946. The date was August 30th, 1905. The game was played at the Polo Grounds in New York City. Yankee Stadium hadn't been built yet. I strolled into the on-deck circle with 3 bats on my shoulder. No one had ever done that before. My teammates called me a hot dog, a show-off, don't you know? Not true. You see, when you all drop the two heavy bats, the remaining one is light as a feather, making it easy to swing. I was always thinking of little things like that to give me an edge, don't you know? Chesbro was a spitballer. You all know what a spitball is? That's when the pitcher spits on the ball. Rubs it up real good. Gets it all wet and slippery. He then fires it at you at 90 miles an hour. The ball flutters and flies like a drunken butterfly on the way to the plate, making it hard to hit. Damn hard. Majors banned it in the early 20s. I stepped into the batter's box, brimming with confidence. His first pitch was a fastball at my head, knocking me on my ass. I heard him yell, "Welcome to the big leagues, boy!" Laughing his fool head off. He said, "Hey, Todd, I hear you all from Georgia, where the men are men and the sheep had better look out." He laughed so damn hard he almost fell off the mound. I got up, dusted myself off, stepped back into the batter's box, stared that sumbitch down. No fear. No fear. Is that the best you can do, boy? My grandmother throws faster than you. His next pitch was up high and pushing me back. He was a master at intimidation. I banged this next pitch over the center fielder's head up against the fence for a double. Danced down the line and screamed at him, "I ain't afraid of you or any other pitcher in this damn league." I made a statement that day and kept it up for the next 23 years. I was always being asked how I accounted for my great hitting ability. The good Lord blessed me with great eyesight and quick reflexes. I could almost read the handwriting on the ball. I had confidence, determination, and a strong work ethic that drove me to success. Some people confuse my confidence with arrogance. Nothing could be further from the truth. I outworked and outpracticed everyone. My manager, coaches, and teammates didn't like the way I held my bat. Hands way apart. Most batters choke up. But this gave me great bat control. I could pull the ball to right field, punch it to center, slap it to left. If a pitcher threw at me, I'd hit a line drive right back at him, nearly take his damn head off. He never threw at me again. A young rookie pitcher on the New York Yankees had the audacity to throw a fastball at my head, knocking me down. On his next pitch, I dragged the bunt down the first baseline. When he came over to pick up the ball, I gave him a good one in his head, knocking him dizzy. He never threw at me the rest of his career. Baseball is not a game for sissies or mollycoddles. The first or third baseman played a bit too far back, I dragged the bunt. If they came in closer, expecting me to bunt, I'd pop the ball over their heads for a single or double. I got many a hit on slow grounders, cause I ran to first like a mother was chasing me with a sharp knife, and I ran for my life. That's how I led the league in stolen bases 6 times, 96 one year, 892 lifetime. I won 6 I won 9 consecutive batting championships over my career and 12 times led the league in batting. I hit over 400 3 times. The last player to hit 400 was my good friend Ted Williams of the Boston Red Sox with 406 in 1941. I said to him, Teddy, I don't believe anyone will ever hit 400 again, and no one has. My critics said, but y'all never hit any home runs. Nonsense. I won the Triple Crown in 1909, leading the league in runs batted in, batting average, and home runs with 9. 9! They didn't call it dead ball era for nothing. Now some people say, I used to call myself the greatest player that ever played the game. Horse feathers. I am way too humble to ever make such a grandiose statement of that kind about myself. I leave it to others to make kind and generous assertions of that nature. My good friend and hunting partner, one of America's greatest authors, don't you know, Ernest Hemingway? Ernie called me the best player he ever saw. He called me tough as a matador. He also called me a son of a bitch. He was correct on all 3 accounts. A reporter once asked Babe Ruth who he thought was the best player he ever saw. The Babe said, Ty Cobb, without a doubt. He could perform magic with his bat. No one ran the bases like Cobb, and he was a damn good fielder. I used to golf with Ike. You know General Eisenhower? President Dwight D. Eisenhower. We were putting on the 5th green at the Masters, in Augusta, where they play the Masters, don't you know? I said to Ike, I said, Mr. President, if I had been a younger man, I would have joined your troops on D-Day. You know, June 6, 1944, the day we invaded France. The president looked me in the eye and said, Ty, I would have sent you to that beach alone. And you would have whipped the Germans' asses all by yourself. We laughed our heads off. The president called me the greatest player he ever saw. Somebody asked me recently if I were playing baseball today, what would I be hitting? I told him about 220. But, Mr. Cobb, he said, y'all have a lifetime average of 367. That's true, sir. But I'm 75 years old now. Thank you all very much. If we have a few minutes left, the Ty Cobb press conference is open. If anyone has a question you'd like to ask Ty, be my guest. Fire away.
Mr. Cobb?
Yes, sir.
Is there any validity to the assertions that I've read in books? Number one, that you filed down your spikes so you could do more bodily harm to second basemen and shortstops when you slid into the base.
Are you asking me if that's true, sir?
Yes, I am.
Read some different books. Now, that was a myth that was built up around me, but I got to tell you the truth about that, sir. There's all the ball players sharpen their spikes. Dirt in those days was hard as rocks. You had to sharpen your spikes to get a grip into the dirt. Did I spike infielders intentionally? Is that your question?
Correct.
Sir, I played by the rules of the game. and the rules give the base pass to the runner. Now, if an infielder played sloppy or clumsy, if he tried to block the base on me, he might get hurt. Accidentally. Question? You have a question?
Yeah, I've got another question.
Yes, sir.
This one's a little raucous, but maybe.
Uh-oh, here comes a curveball. I can see it now. I hit
A
curveballs
little
pretty good, don't you
off the
know?
wall, but is there any validity to the assertions that I've read in some biographies of you that say in many ways as a coach and player that you may have been a white redneck racist? Mr. Cobb.
Yes, sir. Well, I was white. I gotta tell you something, sir. I was born in the South. 23 years after the war between the states. My daddy was a liberal-minded man. I bet you didn't know that. My daddy believed the coach should have the right to buy property and vote. My daddy was also a admirer at President Abraham Lincoln. However, I did take on the thinking of many folk in the South. But don't you think for a moment, sir, there wasn't as much hatred, prejudice, and discrimination in Boston, New York, and California as there was in Mobile, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, Jackson, Mississippi. I was the poster boy for racism. I don't have to remind y'all, the major leagues were segregated. Nor do I have to remind you, sir, that while this great nation was fighting for liberty, freedom, and democracy throughout Europe and Asia in World War II, the United States military was segregated. Next question.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Good question. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Being the Southern gentleman that you are, how was it living in the North playing for the Detroit Tigers?
Good question. I love living in the North. I especially love going to New York to play the Highlanders in the olden days and the New York Yankees when they changed their mind. I love visiting. People don't know this about me. I love going to shows, going to museums, and taking advantage of the culture that New York City offered. I love Chicago, not the Cubs, not the White Sox. I love the restaurants up in the northern cities. I love the women, but that's another story. I enjoy very much living in the North. In fact, I loved it so much, I moved to California. Did you know that, sir?
No.
I bought a beautiful mansion in Atherton. Yes, at the beginning of the Depression. I loved living on the peninsula. I was a golf player, joined the Olympic Country Club, played at the Palo Alto Hills Country Club. Yeah, I loved living in the North. But I also went to my home back in Georgia. Question? Anybody?
What's the second best thing that ever came out of Georgia?
You mean aside from Jimmy Carter? Next question. But honestly, Georgia peaches. If you all never had a Georgia peach, you don't know if you're missing. The garbage they serve here in the North, terrible. You gotta go to Georgia and get a Georgia peach. My nickname, by the way. Question? Yes, ma'am.
How many years did you play baseball?
I played from 1905 to 1928. So if you do the mathematics, I think that's 23? 23. I ended my career with the Tigers in 1926 and went over to the Philadelphia Athletics in 27 and 28, where I played for my dear, close friend, Connie Mack. And are you going to ask me why I retired? The reason I retired as one of the greatest hitters in my last year, I was batting .323. I think a lot of modern players would love to hit .323, pick up millions of bucks in the process. But I was very unhappy with my .323 batting average. I felt that was a failure. And I wouldn't take any more money for having such a low batting average. My problem was, to be honest with you folks, I could see the ball very good for 60 feet. It was the last 6 inches that got me. Question. Anyone? If not, I'd like to thank you all very much. You've been a great audience. It's always a pleasure for me to visit one of my favorite towns in the area, Foster City.
What did you think about it when you lived in Atherton? Norm, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Terrific.
Thank you, sir.
High energy presentation. It's
Thank
absolutely and very timely. Why don't you come on up here for a second, please? You obviously traveled as a player. You're traveling the world as a performing Thai cop. We travel the world as well. We go to Mazatlan, Mexico each year. Last year in November, we traveled for our 13th year. We provided wheelchairs to those that didn't have mobility, as well as visiting schools and contributing to those. And as a token of our appreciation for the time you've taken today, we'd like to offer this, this memento.
I thank you very much, sir.